Hey guys, welcome back. So in today's video, we're going to discuss the housing market in a little bit more detail. We're going to discuss the data that's out there and help you make sense of it, whether you're a buyer, seller, or investor in today's market. So if you've been watching the news, depending on what station you watch or when you watch it, you're likely getting mixed signals, hearing that unemployment is down, but at the same time, hearing jobless claims are up, hearing that, the market is in a V-shaped recovery, but also hearing that there's foreclosures looming out in the distance. So what is actually going on in the real estate market? That's what we're going to discuss today. Help you make sense of it, like I mentioned, and, help educate and guide you through that process so that you can make informed decisions if you are a buyer or seller this year. But before we get into that, my name is Jeb Smith. I'm a real estate broker here in Southern California, and I want to thank you for taking the time to watch. If you're new to my channel, it's all about real estate, helping buyers, helping sellers, helping homeowners, and guiding you through that real estate process and helping educate you along the way. So thank you for taking the time to watch, and I appreciate your support. And if you like the video, do me a favor and give me a thumbs up on it, as it helps more people see the content. So let's talk about what is actually out there, what's happening in the market. So, as we have been doing updates every month. We started back in January giving a forecast for the year, telling you that the market was on fire and that we were going to have the best year ever. February was a lot the same, and then as we got into March and April, the message changed a little bit. We started talking about the market slowing down, really not sure what was going to happen, because typically speaking, the spring market, which starts right after Super Bowl, is our hot time of the year. And that runs into summer, at which point the market generally slows down towards the end of summer, into fall. And our slowest time of the year is the holiday season. And so, that market for us, at least here in Southern California, was somewhat ruined through the March and April time period because, home sales came to a standstill. A lot of the inventory that was on the market, although there was a lack of inventory during that time, came to a halt as well, because people pulled their homes off the market during that time because they were unsure of what was going on, how long this was going to last, and more importantly, they didn't want people walking through their properties with the unknowns of what this virus caused or how it was spread and what have you. But as we started to come towards the end of April into May, we started to see a pickup. And not just a pickup here in Southern California, but a pickup across the United States. As I've mentioned in other videos, I network with top agents all across the country. And in those conversations, a lot of those agents, while they're top performing agents and they're successful regardless of what type of market they're in, are talking about multiple offer situations, having issues getting offers accepted for buyers. And that's a lot like we were starting to experience in Southern California. And then as we moved towards the end of May, we really started to see a pickup in the market where buyers started coming back. Inventory picked up a little bit, but inventory, as it picked up, more buyers continued to come to the market. So the inventory levels have more or less remained the same, while buyer demand has really risen. And as I've talked about also in other videos, we've received data that buyer demand is up 13% annually, and that mortgage applications have risen for 8 straight weeks in a row. So that shows us that buyers are back. The Fed has come back and said that they're planning on keeping interest rates low for the foreseeable future, more or less that they have no thoughts of even considering raising it within the rest of this year of 2020, and probably not into 2021. So the Fed is going to keep the interest rates low, which is going to translate to lower mortgage rates in theory, which buyer demand will likely stay there. Now, I know a lot of people are predicting foreclosures to come from all the forbearances and all of the unemployment that has happened. Well, as of June 30th this year, so at the end of this month, we are going to see the current CARES Act, the additional employment benefits, go away. As it stands right now, there hasn't been another stimulus passed, so that $600 of additional unemployment is going to go away at the end of this month. In addition to that, we have the foreclosure and eviction moratorium that should be ending at the end of June 30th. So you're going to have landlords who have unpaying tenants be able to start that eviction process. You're going to have mortgage companies who have unpaying borrowers able to start that foreclosure process. And you're going to have people that have been receiving these benefits and have decided that they don't want to go back to work or to look for work because they're receiving that additional employment benefit. They're going to have to start going and looking for work, because if the unemployment benefits aren't extended, they're going to be in a position where they have to do something, right? And so unless an additional stimulus bill is passed, and at the moment it doesn't really look bright for that happening, at least not based on the original HEROES Act that came out and was voted on by the Senate, who shut it down. So as of right now, if we're looking at the market, we see, again, mixed data, right? We've got buyer demand there because of low interest rates. We've got potential evictions and foreclosures coming up. And we have, unemployment. Where's unemployment going? Well, here's the thing, is that there's a lot of measures in place to protect homeowners who filed for forbearance, right? We've discussed that. Again, in other videos, I keep mentioning other videos, but a lot of this stuff I'm reiterating because we've talked about it in the past, but there are measures in place to protect these homeowners. So chances are you're not going to see a big foreclosure boom here anytime in 2020. Probably not in 2021 either, because of those measures in place, right? There are measures that allow these borrowers who went into forbearance different repayment options and loan restructuring if they need it in order to keep them in their property. And so that is going to keep those foreclosures off the market for the foreseeable future. And I believe that unemployment is likely going to go down as those unemployment benefits end, because people are going to have to look for work. So I think that side of the economy is going to pick up a little bit. I think you're going to have more jobs, or more people looking for jobs. And at presently, more states are opening up. In California, as of today, we're opening stage 3, which that means bars can now open, gyms can now open. So if you are a personal trainer or somebody that worked at a bar or what have you, you now have an opportunity to go back to work. So with the reopening, in theory, that will allow unemployment numbers to go down. So what should you do if you're a buyer or a seller considering taking advantage of this market? So let's talk about that. Now, I'm not here, as I mentioned in other videos, to tell you to buy a house or to sell a house. But what I would tell you to do is look at your goals. Look at what you're trying to accomplish, right? If your goal is to buy a property and be in there for a longer period of time, I say 5 to 7 years, that's pretty typical right now for most buyers, 7 years or so. Chances are what's happening out there, the stimulus, all of that is not going to affect. Could home prices drop next year or the following year? Yeah, of course they could. But keep in mind, we've been on an upward trajectory since 2012. So the market actually needs a little pullback, which we haven't experienced. So I wouldn't be one to tell you to wait and bottom fish and try to pick the bottom of the market. What I would tell you is to speak with a lender, get pre-qualified. And if you find a property that matches what you're pre-approved for and the payment makes sense to you and you're comfortable with that payment, then maybe a good time to take advantage of that, right? There are benefits to owning a home, versus renting with regards to tax deductions, potential appreciation, so on and so forth. So, if I were looking to buy a home, I would get pre-approved. I would, look at what's out there and see if it makes sense, right? I mean, in a lot of markets, you can actually buy for what it costs to rent. So, just do your homework and don't overstretch yourself in this environment. And if I had an unstable job that could be affected if there were a second round of this and what have you, I may reconsider my thoughts on it, right? I would think ahead, not just act in the moment. And if you're a seller, now is a really good time to sell your property, not because there's a looming crash coming or what have you. I don't believe that at all, but because there's a lack of inventory. There's a lack of available houses out there at the moment. And so if you're someone who has considered selling, now is a really good time because you don't have a lot of competition. Buyers are out in full force, really in all price points. I mean, my average sales price here in Southern California is about $900,000. So that means I sell properties at $2 million. I sell some at $400,000 or what have you. But I'm selling property in all of those price points, and properties are moving. And I have friends that do a lot of luxury selling, and I'm talking 15 million plus, 20 million plus, and they're telling me that the market is super hot in that price point as well. So the market is really moving in all areas. So if you're a seller, talk to an agent, find out what your property is worth. You might be getting more for it right now than you would have 6 months ago before this thing, right? A lot of people have thought, well, the housing market has to go down because of what's happened with COVID and the pandemic and what have you. And actually, we're seeing the opposite. We're seeing real estate thrive. And that's a reason a lot of people are predicting that V-shaped recovery is because real estate was more or less the last affected and the first out of this thing. And, a lot of the businesses are kind of following the path of real estate. So, if you were a seller, now is a good time to take advantage of the market. Again, not because there's some looming crash coming. I do believe that you still have an opportunity to sell your property, in the future and not be affected by what's happened. But there's an opportunity now, like we talked about with refinancing. Now the opportunity is good. So it could be a good time to take advantage of it now versus waiting to see what happens, because the market could go down, right? We don't know what's going to happen out there. I don't predict what has currently happened to affect us in the short term. There may be longer term effects, but we don't know. I mean, if there's a second round of this, if they decide to shut the economy down again for any reason, that could affect what's going on. So that's my thoughts on the current real estate market. I mean, I know it's not clear cut, but I don't want to be one to tell you should sell your house or buy your house, because I don't know what the future holds. I'm just telling you what's going on right now and what I foresee happening in the next, say, 6 months. So with that said, if you have additional comments, additional questions, something you want me to touch on, do me a favor, comment below or reach out to me directly. I'm happy to have those conversations. And as always, I appreciate you taking the time to watch. And if you haven't done so already, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button, give me a thumbs up, and thank you again for taking the time, and look forward to seeing you again soon. Have an awesome day. Bye-bye.